This is Join Us in France, episode 172. This episode is brought to you in part by Patreon supporters and Addicted to France, the tour company that specializes in small group tours in France. Bonjour, I'm Annie, and in today's show, I have a chat with Elyse on how you can bring a little bit of France into your Thanksgiving feast this year. It's coming up right quick, so I thought maybe you'd like to start salivating about French food. The extra content for email subscribers this week is a classic French recipe card. Elyse and I mentioned many classic French recipes you could include in your Thanksgiving feast at home. I won't be able to test all of them and write the recipe with both metric and imperial measurements because I'm doing NaNoWriMo and I have been staying out of the kitchen as much as possible. But I know that especially for Thanksgiving, it's really important to use a tried and true recipe. So I'll test it, I'll take good notes, and send that to you as the extra. And since the holiday shopping season is upon us now, a reminder that if you want to help out the show, you can use the Amazon affiliate link for Join Us in France. It helps pay for the file hosting. Every little bit helps, and it's a win-win situation because you don't pay a penny more. So to do that, before you start shopping on Amazon, go to joinusinfrance.com and click on any of the Amazon logos, and then shop as you normally would. And thank you very much. Posting photos on Instagram has been fun. I'll keep doing it once a day, but I could use more followers. So the account is called Addicted to France on Instagram. And yes, somebody asked me if these were my photos. Yes, these are all my photos. I don't use anybody else's photos for this because I have thousands of photos. I can't tell you exactly how many, but I have almost 100,000 photos, and most of them are of France. So, well, a lot of basketball too. Okay, now here's my conversation with Elyse, prepared to get hungry and salivating about all this good French food. Hey, I just want to jump in here to let you know that for all of these products that we mentioned that are French-specific cooking or food items, I will put links either from Amazon.com or give you a photo of what I mean, because some of these items I have seen in America, but Amazon doesn't sell them for some reason. I know if you go to Costco or Target or some of the nicer grocery stores, you will find these things. It's just a matter of knowing what the heck we're talking about. So I'll put a picture on the episode post for that. Some of these items are really specific, and I would get them ahead of time if you can. For example, the balsamic glaze that we mentioned at the beginning. Well, that makes all the difference. You know, it's, and you'll use it a ton in other occasions, but for Thanksgiving, it really makes it pretty and stuff. So if you don't have one, get one, and then you can proceed with your Thanksgiving, knowing that you got all the stuff you need. Okay, on with the episode. Bonjour, Elyse. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, Annie. How are you?
I'm great.
Except I'm a little bit nasal.
Yeah,
anyway.
So am I. Today you get the quackies today.
Yes, exactly.
The quacky voices.
Yes.
And besides, we've talked like you got here 2 hours ago, and we gabbed and we gabbed and we gabbed, and we haven't recorded anything yet. We are bad.
Well,
I'm slapping my own hand.
Slap your hand. We haven't seen each other in 2 weeks.
That's right. So there's a lot to say.
A lot to say.
Right. And I just came back from this tour in Paris, which was very fun. And we talked about how much we want to have another wonderful tour in Paris in
Paris.
late May. And this is what we were just discussing. You know, a podcast is a free thing. So necessarily a podcast attracts people who want free things, right? So maybe a podcast is a terrible way to find customers for tours. But the reality is, it doesn't matter how much you listen to the podcast. It's not at all the same as having us with you.
It is certainly not.
Not at all, because I have met several of the people who listen to the podcast and don't book a tour. And they come for us, and some of them I meet because they come with us for one day or something like that. And it's okay. So when you go somewhere, the fears that I have is I'm going to miss things. I'm not going to get to see. I'm going to get lost. Things are going to go wrong. And if you're with a guide, hopefully a conscientious guide will have done the homework ahead of time. Will know what to do at what time and how much you can pack in, and
that's right,
and take you straight to the things you want to see.
But and tell you things you wouldn't know about.
That's true.
You can look at things forever, but having somebody who tells you about them, tells you stories
right there. Yeah,
it's not the same thing.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. Anyway, so check out Addicted to France and the May tour for Paris, because
it will be wonderful, and it's a wonderful, wonderful time of the year to be in Paris.
Yes,
it
May
really
is fantastic.
It's just fantastic.
And also
there.
we have a couple of add-ons for Giverny, for Versailles. I haven't put it up yet, but I will by the time this episode is released. The extra 3 days to go to Normandy. This would be also very fun to do for everybody.
And I hadn't mentioned this to you, but there's a French writer who writes mystery stories. Well, you know how much I love mystery stories.
Yes.
Anyway, I just finished a book that is one of his most recent ones that takes place in Giverny. And so now I have some other very interesting little details about the life of Monet and Giverny that I'm not going to tell on this podcast, because I'm saving them for those who come on the tour with us.
There you go. There's so much that we don't get to on the podcast that it's not even funny. Anyway, dishes that you can use to put a little bit of France into your Thanksgiving.
Into your Thanksgiving.
Yes.
And as we're getting up to lunchtime, you can see the glow on her face as she talks about the food.
And I looked up a bunch of recipes that are traditionally French, but that would totally fit into an American Thanksgiving if you wanted to make it. Of course, Thanksgiving is a special occasion. If you wanted a special salad or a special side dish, that is something from France. So, shall I start? Shall you start?
Well, you start.
Okay.
Let me just say that we're very, very good friends, and we are very different. And so my idea is to offer suggestions about things that are basically similar to what you might make in the States, but with the French touch. So it's not completely off. It's still what I call fall food. Yeah.
Yes, and me, I'm all over the place.
She's all over the place.
Yeah, I'm all over the place.
Yeah.
I went more looking for French regional specialties that would fit in well to a Thanksgiving.
Basically, what she means is food she likes.
Yes, exactly. And I will put together a whole list with recipes and all of that I will send out to Patreon supporters and also to email list subscribers. And so if you would like to have it all in writing, go ahead and subscribe, and you'll get it with...
Yes, subscribe now.
Yes, so it's this episode comes out on a Wednesday. By Saturday, you'll have everything in writing. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is a few salads. Typical French salads that you could have at Thanksgiving. The first one is salade de chèvre chaud. This one is so easy to make, it's not even funny. So what you do is you take a beautiful head of lettuce, whatever lettuce you happen to like, you clean it up really well, you dry it out really well, and you season it just a little bit. And
very lightly.
Right. What I like to do is at the bottom of the plate, before I put any salad on it, I take one of these vinegar, the very thick, creamy balsamic vinegar. So it's crème de balsamique. It's not vinegar, watery, runny vinegar.
Right.
Okay. And I use that to do something cute on the plate. So you could draw a heart. You could draw
under the salad.
Under the salad. I make it kind of big under the salad, and then I put the lettuce on top, and then I spray some oil on the salad. Mm-hmm. I use a sprayer so you don't put too much, and you could spray the oil in a different bowl so it's not so messy. And then on top of that, you will add bread with a slice of toasted chèvre.
Yeah, maybe what we need to do is talk some people obviously do know now what kind of cheese we're talking about, but maybe not everybody does. And it
Yeah,
depends
that's
on
true.
where you live in the country, what
That's
you have
true.
available.
And you will find that for sure at Costco, but I don't know. And probably at Target too.
We're talking about not just any kind of goat cheese, because obviously
No,
Chèvre
it's not
is
the
goat cheese.
fresh goat cheese. So the goat cheese that is nothing but the creamy goodness and doesn't have a crust at all, that's fresh goat cheese.
Right.
What I'm talking about is the goat cheese that has a little bit of a white
I think in the
crust around it.
States, it's mostly, what people will find is mostly, what do you call
A
it?
bûche. It's
a
like
bûche. It's
like a flat circular a log.
a log. Thank you. It's a round tube-like form. That's basically what it is.
And then you
right? And then you
cut
slice. You make a
of
nice
that.
slice.
You
That's
make
about
a
an inch
slice
thick.
not an inch. That's too big.
No, and it's just you
No,
make it
less
thinner?
than that. I make it thinner. I would rather make more, but
Oh, you want
thinner.
more?
Yeah, I would make it like a half an inch at most.
I'm holding up my fingers.
Yes, a half an inch is the biggest I would do.
Okay, then you'd have 2 on each plate.
Oh, 2 or 3 even.
Is this a starter?
Yes, this is a starter. This is a salad.
Well, think about that, Annie. If this is a starter,
yeah, they're hungry. You start.
Okay.
They're hungry, right? It's
if I
Thanksgiving.
eat a
They're
salad
eager.
with 3 slices of goat cheese, I'm done. So
Well, especially if you make them an inch thick, that's too
That's
much.
true.
Yeah, you got to make them smaller.
no, but honestly, I think one of the reasons I prefer it a little thicker is because I like it when it's not dry on the inside.
it wouldn't
So
be
if
dry
you're
on
going
the
to,
inside.
are you going to heat them up?
Yes. So what I do is I take a piece of nice bread. It doesn't have to be any particular bread. A nice round slice of bread, baguette. If you can buy a baguette, it would have to be kind of big enough,
Yeah.
round enough diameter. Plop your cheese on top of it, and you put it under the broiler for maybe 3-4 minutes. It doesn't
That much?
Yeah. Well, keep an eye on it so it doesn't get. You want it to start bubbling just
Right,
barely,
right.
and have just a little bit of color on top, but that's it. And then you put that on each plate, and you serve that, and it's absolutely delicious.
Now, what I like is when you do that and you put a teeny drizzle of honey on top.
Yes, that would be very good.
I love
too.
that.
Yes, that would
That's
be
served
very,
a
very
lot
good too.
here.
Yes, I've had it like that too. So that's one, and another one that's very typical and local is the salade de foie gras.
Ah, you call that a salad?
Well, une assiette de foie gras. But what I do is I serve it again. I do my trick with something pretty on the plate,
Right.
with the balsamic. And then I spray olive oil on my lettuce, and I put that nicely. And then I put a nice slice of foie gras with a like a spoonful of something sweet.
Yes. Traditionally, it's either fig. There's a
Yep.
fig jam that's
Yeah,
delicious.
yeah.
Some people use a cherry jam. Mm-hmm. I find cherry a little too sweet, honestly.
I've had people enjoy serving foie gras with a pain brioché. So it's a bread that's
Kind of
almost like a brioche.
It's like an egg bread.
Yes, that sort of bread with a little bit of sugar in it.
Right.
Or you could serve it with thin slices of, I can't remember this one, pain d'épices.
Spice cake.
Yeah, a spice cake.
Right.
A thin slice of a spice cake, and you put the foie gras on top.
Personally, I prefer when it's not a sweeter bread, but that the jam really seems to go really well. It cuts the richness of the foie gras.
Right.
The other thing you can do, and I've done a couple of times, is a couple of slices of poached apple.
Oh, I've never done that.
Yeah, and it's really good if you just poach them a little bit with a little bit of spice. It's kind of like the spice. It's
Interesting. And you use the apple, but not as a bread, right? The apple is to serve
right
on the side.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Oh, the bread, the type of, you know what? This is ridiculous, but the type of bread that would go really well with foie gras is your plain, old, awful white bread, sliced bread.
Yeah.
You take that, you take a cut, something that will cut it up round,
Yeah. Cut out the crust.
cut out the crust, and toast it lightly. And use that to serve your foie gras on top. That would be totally French. So
It would be.
yes, that would be totally French.
It's the French version of an English cucumber sandwich.
Yes, yes. So these are the two salads that I wanted to mention that I think are pretty good.
I would add the endive salad.
Ah, yes. La salade
Endives
d'endive. Yes.
with walnuts and either apple or teeny little bit of
blue cheese.
Blue cheese.
Roquefort or blue
Endive
cheese.
salad is very, very typical in the fall and winter
That
in
is
France.
true. That is true.
And endive is not that well known in the States.
I think they call it chicory.
They call it white chicory.
White chicory,
'cause
not the red stuff. The red
chicory
stuff is
very
bitter.
different.
Yeah.
But it's very, very, very common here. And it is because it's relatively bland
Yes.
and crunchy. It's nice and crunchy. It really does very well with the crunchy things that have a little bit of tang and taste to them.
Right.
So I love mixing it with particularly walnuts.
Toasted walnuts. So the way I serve that, I will slice up all my endive, wash it, dry it. Then I will do a vinaigrette with Dijon mustard in it.
With a little bit of mustard.
Yeah, a mustard vinaigrette. And then I will toast walnuts or walnut chunks or whatever.
Right.
Whatever you have, just lightly toasted. It doesn't have to be forever. And then I will add some, just as a garnish, you don't have to put too much, but a little bit of blue cheese or Roquefort is better. Just a few bites on top.
And then sometimes, I'm very big on apples, so I can put apples on just about everything. So watch out.
There she goes again with her apples.
Here we go with my apples. But it also does really well to add, even with the cheese and the walnuts, a teeny little bit of chopped up orange or apple. It's very, very good.
Actually.
Oh, she's getting hungry. Oh, boy.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about some soups that you can do. They're very French. Your turn.
Okay. This is my favorite topic, soups, practically, except for apples, maybe. And one of the soups that I love to do, and I do it for my kind of ersatz Thanksgiving meal here.
I don't know if everybody knows what that means. That's French, isn't it?
It's ersatz. I don't know what language it is, but I love the word, or whatever it is.
It just means a
sort of
fake.
Kind of copy of version of whatever. I make a sweet potato soup. Sweet potatoes have become easy to find in the last number of years in France, which they weren't before.
Yep.
And of course, they also have wonderful, wonderful winter squashes here. So here you get the same, you get butternut like you get in the States. You don't get acorn. Acorn doesn't exist here, but you get another that's called potimarron.
Oh, yeah, that's really good.
Which is totally delicious and has a slightly chestnutty taste. And those are the two winter squashes that you can actually substitute, if you wish, for the sweet potatoes. But I've tried making this soup with all of these, and my favorite, to be honest, is still just sweet potato. And it's a sweet potato ginger soup. It's not heavy because what you do is you cook up the... first, I 3/4 steam the sweet potatoes, and then I take out all of the flesh of them. I do a little bit of cooking up of some shallots, and I use some ginger root that I've chopped very, 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 very finely.
Yeah,
a good dose. I mean, a good dose because I really wanted to have that kick of the ginger and some black pepper, and I just put in...
I've had this at your house. It's very good.
I put in...
And I'm not a big fan of strong ginger flavor.
Right. But this is good because
this is good, yeah.
I think the sweet potato offsets it so that you get that kick at the end after you've had it in your mouth for a while, And then you just add water, or you can always add a vegetable broth. It's actually it's even a recipe you can do if you're vegan, except for the end, which I'll talk about. And then you cook it up, and I make it relatively liquid. That is, I don't want it to be super, super thick,
heavy,
like a puree, and I don't want it to be... So I mix it, and then when I mix it, I add more water if I need to, and I add more seasonings.
Well, it's true that at the beginning of a Thanksgiving meal, you don't want anything too heavy.
You don't want too heavy, but it's delicious. It really is delicious. And then what I do is, for those who will eat it, I sprinkle on a little bit of foie gras. Oh, God, she's salivating. Here we go. And for those who do not wish it, I put some toasted walnuts on top because it's very nice. That little crunch goes with the sweetness of the sweet potato. And when you finish, you have that aftertaste that's the ginger and black pepper taste. And you can do the same exact thing with butternut squash or potimarron. The butternut is easier because it's bigger and fleshier and you can pull all of the stuff out. But it's my absolute favorite soup that I use and that I add as my version of putting in sweet potatoes into Thanksgiving.
That's cool. That's very cool. Another soup that's very popular and very good is French onion soup.
Of course.
The secret to that is lots of onion cooked in butter, low heat. Don't believe anybody who tells you that onions cook in 2 minutes. That is not true.
They do not.
Onions cook in a long time. I mean, a good 10 minutes, maybe 15 on low heat.
On low heat.
And you cover, and you have to, so you put a big dollop of butter at the bottom. Salted butter is even better. Then you put your thinly sliced onions or chopped up onion. I like them thinly sliced. And then you cover your pot and you let it be for a good 10 minutes, and then you stir it up a little bit. And then the way I like to flavor my onion soup is, of course, a very good broth.
Yeah.
Any broth that you like, you can use in this. And then add something, a brandy or something.
Right. This is what I like too. A little bit of something.
Yeah, you could make it whiskey if you like the flavor of whiskey, but not a lot. It's just like 2-3 tablespoons, depending on how much you're making. And then make your soup kind of. You could add a roux. Un roux, comment expliquer?
It's flour and butter.
So it's
the flour that's actually cooked, so that it's
So you melt butter and you add flour to it, and you cook it, and then you add the
little bit of liquid.
You add your broth to that slowly, but if
that just thickens it up.
Little bit. It makes it a little thick. You don't even have to do that for Thanksgiving.
I actually do sometimes do it with a little red wine.
You could do red wine. I like something with some
like
flavor.
A little sweetness.
Port wine.
Marsala.
Yeah, Marsala wine would be good. A port wine. Whatever flavor you like, put a little bit of that. And then, of course, you serve it in a nice bowl with a big slice of hearty bread in it, and then you toast some grated cheese on top.
But the difference is, it's not drowned in the cheese.
Yes, you don't want a crust of cheese that's an inch thick. You want a little bit of cheese.
Right. One of the things I don't like when you get it in restaurants, and I don't even care if it's a restaurant that makes its own really, which is probably not most of them, but it doesn't matter, is that they put too much cheese on and you wind up eating melted cheese with a little bit of some kind of broth.
Yeah, you don't want too much cheese. You want a little bit, but it's the flavor that dominates has to be the broth and whatever
and the flavor of the
flavor.
onions.
Yeah.
Now, I don't do all butter. You know me.
Yeah.
I do half and half olive oil and butter.
I do all butter.
You do all butter.
Yeah, okay. I'm crazy.
She's crazy. Heart attack.
Yeah, waiting to happen. Yes. Now we're off of the soups. Let's talk about side dishes that you can do. Potatoes au gratin are the American version, but in French we call them gratin dauphinois. And it's very good. It's pretty much sliced potatoes with a lot of cream and a lot of nice butter and some cheese, but it's mostly butter and cream.
Right.
It's another heart attack waiting to happen.
It's another heart attack.
This is one where I recommend that you make it in individual dishes.
Oh, you do?
Yes, because then it's more portion control. You need to get a dish that's not too big. Doesn't matter if it's transparent dish or not, but you can even get disposable dishes so long as they go in the oven. Because at the end it'll go in the oven. I mean, no, not even in the end. It cooks in the oven. So it has to be oven proof. But that's very nice. And I get the impression that if you plop a big old dish of gratin dauphinois on the table in the middle of a Thanksgiving dinner, it is big and intimidating and too filling. Whereas if you give a small portion to everybody, like serve it individually, I don't know, it looks cool, I think.
It probably does look cool. It's a lot more work to do it individually, I guess. That's
not that much. If you have
the little ramekins.
Yeah, you have to have the ramekins, but I have a ton of different size ramekins at my house.
I like to do, interestingly, of course, potatoes are potatoes, and there's zillions of recipes of every kind. And I think the traditional thing in the States, of course, is good old mashed potatoes. Yeah. And I I like to do a version of that includes wild mushrooms.
Ooh, nice.
Where the potatoes are cooked up with a lot of garlic. So it's kind of like the beginning of making an aligot, but it doesn't have the cheese, Annie. No.
Yeah.
No cheese. just a little bit of milk if you want, or whatever, to make the mashing smoother. But then I saute really nice brown mushrooms, and I mix them in. And it just adds a little...
Mixed, like you
well,
mean?
no,
like...
I mean, I chop them up and saute them, and then I stir them in.
You stir them in. Okay, they're not like blended.
And then I put the whole thing in a dish in the oven to just sort of brown it, because it's hard to keep mashed potatoes hot.
My problem with this is that mushrooms have a nasty color once they're cooked. And so it's like I almost included a mushroom soup.
Yeah.
But the color of mushroom soup is just deplorable.
I kind of like that.
Homemade mushroom soup. Oh.
I love mushroom soup. But the thing, and of course, people either love or don't love mushrooms. I mean, mushrooms very few people are indifferent to mushrooms.
Yes.
But if you saute them, the mushrooms themselves, I find, don't discolor the potatoes, because you've basically taken the juice out.
Yeah, they're cooked separately. So
it's good.
That would be really good. Oh, I got to go back to the soup. I forgot one. There's one that's really good. It's la soupe auvergnate aux châtaignes.
Now, that's a chestnut soup.
That's a chestnut soup. That chestnut soup is so good. Chestnuts are like this. Maybe a lot of the listeners have never tasted a chestnut.
They may not have.
It's kind of starchy, not quite as starchy as a potato.
It's a little creamy.
But it's a starchy, creamy, nice mouthfeel.
Yeah.
It has a very specific flavor to it, but not too strong, Chestnut is not a strong flavor.
It's not as strong, but it is, Do you use canned chestnuts? Or do you buy them and then roast them?
I buy them
yourself?
roasted. No. Oh, by can you don't mean the pureed chestnuts?
No. I mean,
yes. I buy them in a can, and they are already peeled. They're roasted, they're already
and peeled, and they're already cooked.
Yes, and in France you can get them fresh, or you can get them every possible way.
It's kind of like in the States where you can actually get, and I think it's pretty awful, but I know that some people do it, excuse me, out there, canned sweet potatoes that are already cooked in a syrup.
Yeah.
This is not in a syrup. The chestnuts are in just water.
Yes.
But they're already ready to be used in a recipe.
Or like they're vacuum packed.
Right.
It's going to be
They're better in vacuum packed.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'll find the ingredients, these odd ingredients. I'll try to find them on Amazon and give you links so that you can.
I've never had a chestnut soup. Does it have cream in it? Do you have any idea?
I don't remember if the one I looked at has
Sounds
cream
like
or
a
not.
good idea as a soup.
A little bit of cream, but not too much, because it's going to just drown the flavor. Right. Yeah. Another very French thing is tapenade, obviously. Tapenade is a concoction made of olives, and it's usually awfully salty, which is why I don't love it. But it's very typical of Provence as well.
It's a spread.
Yeah, it's a spread. You serve it on crackers or on toasted bread. You can buy it. For me, it's way too salty.
Really? Every version. Sometimes they are more, I think, salty than others, but I do like it.
Yeah. Oysters on the half shell would be a very French thing that you can have for Thanksgiving. Yeah, that's a very French thing.
Very, very French.
Oysters are the perfect food. They are tasty. They are low calorie, and they are nothing but protein.
Are they low calorie?
Oh, absolutely.
I guess all shellfish is low calorie, right?
It's very low calorie, and the few calories that are in there is protein. It's a very, of all the things I've talked about, oysters are the healthiest.
They're the healthiest. Trouble is I don't eat them, personally. I don't like them.
But if you're in a region of America that has oysters...
Coast.
Yeah, the coast.
Northwest.
That would be something that in France we would serve as a first course.
Yes, and they are delicious here.
At the beginning of the meal, yes.
They're famous here.
Yeah. Let's see.
Stuffing?
Wait, pruneau au lard. Okay, this is the Southwest, so I gotta go for that. So, pruneau is what? Prunes. So pitted prunes.
Yeah, pitted prunes.
And then you make some bacon that you don't cook it so. You remove the bacon before it has to be cooked, but not crispy.
Right.
Okay. It has to be cooked enough but not too much, where you
you have
can
to wrap
wrap it around the prune, and then you put a toothpick through that, and it is awful good.
It's good, yeah.
Okay, I want to give an alternative for vegetarians. So something very tasty and very unusual that you can serve if you're a vegetarian or to your vegetarian guests. This is called œuf en cocotte. So you get a nice ramekin. It has to be big enough for a thing where you could put 2 or 3 eggs in it.
2 or 3 poached eggs. They're like poached eggs.
Yeah. In the end, they'll be like poached.
About the width of 2 hands.
No, that's too big. That's too big. You need something like a container that's about 2/3 of a cup or something like that.
Okay.
A ramekin of about that size. At the bottom, you put a nice dollop of sour cream, full fat. Never mind this crap.
She's looking at me when she says full fat.
Full fat. Then you
I'm
crack
gonna cheat.
2 big eggs on top. You open the eggs, you just crack them. And then you salt and pepper that to your taste. And then you add some mushrooms. So you could
Cooked already?
Cooked already. So you could, for example, if you like portobello mushrooms, you could slice them up and prepare them any way you like, add them to the top. Or you could take truffles. If it's a beautiful occasion.
You would use less, right?
Oh, you would just use like maybe truffle
Teeny
you buy,
sliver, right?
a tiny bit of truffle.
Yeah.
It's just
a strong taste.
Yes, not very much at all. Just for flavoring more than anything. Portobello mushroom, you would add more than that, but otherwise
you could even use what the Americans call Paris mushrooms.
Regular mushroom. Any mushrooms you like and that you have, you can use. So you put a little bit of mushroom on top. You could add a little bit more cream on top of that, and then a little bit of cheese.
I get the laser look of full fat in her eyes as she says this.
And then you put that in your oven, on a hot oven for maybe 2 or 3 minutes.
That's it.
Yes, you don't want to overcook. I mean, you have to make sure that your eggs are cooked, but barely.
Okay.
So your oven is going to be at like 400 or something, but just look at your ramekin. I do it in a transparent ramekin, so I can visually see if it's cooked or not.
So is it the white is cooked and the yellow is still liquid, right?
No. It has to be all cooked, but not so cooked that it becomes hard.
Oh, okay.
You don't want it in there.
It just needs 2-3 minutes then, right?
Yeah, if it's hot enough. I mean, you have to. I make this a lot, so I look at it. Okay. I look at it. You want the white to not be transparent anymore. It has to be,
right.
Congealed. I mean, whatever you call that.
What a horrible word, congealed. Solid.
Yes. Sorry. and you want your yolk to be mostly cooked through, but it might have a little bit of softness
like
to it.
Like a good poached egg.
Yes, that sort of thing. So that would be a very fancy something that you could serve to vegetarians, so long as they're not vegan. I mean,
yes,
vegan,
as long as they're not vegan. Can we talk about what would be a vegetarian stuffing?
Yes.
Talking about chestnuts?
Yes.
I do a chestnut stuffing.
Yes, and that's very French.
And that's really very French. And that's done often here for Christmas. And what I do is I don't ever do a stuffing that has meat at all.
Yeah.
So it's a stuffing that basically I do have some dried old bread that I'm softened up. And I get a very big, usually I get a can of the chestnuts.
Yes.
And I add dried apricot chopped up very finely.
Ooh.
With a teeny little bit of celery and onion. Mm-hmm. And I use sage, which of course I do happen to associate with Thanksgiving, but I happen to love. It just seems to work really well. And I sort of make a big mix of all of this. And that's what it's as simple as that. And no eggs, no meat, no nothing at all.
Oh.
And I put it in the turkey, but I have
Which makes it not vegetarian.
No, but I have, because I have a friend who's basically vegan, I've always set apart a little bit if she's invited, and I just make it separately.
Yes.
And so, she doesn't get the juices of the meat in it.
Yeah.
But it's actually very, very tasty. You have to make sure you put enough salt and pepper in it. But can I just say a word? We're talking about all these as dishes you might want to use in a Thanksgiving. I just have to say something because it is actually a little bit on the funny side about French turkeys. You and I have gone through this before with buying whole turkeys here as opposed to buying turkey parts. The French breed their turkeys to have very, very long legs.
Big legs.
They're like
people.
Giant rabbits. So they are not like American turkeys that are bred to have big breasts because everybody in the States wants to make sure that there's a lot of white meat. And so they make them so that they do breed them, especially so that they have big breasts. But here, if you ask to get a whole turkey, in order to get one before Christmas, you have to go to a butcher. You have to really go to a special butcher. You can't really get them except in pieces in the supermarket. And both Annie and I know, have had this experience of getting a turkey and it won't go into the oven because its legs are too long.
Right.
And of course, the catastrophe of that is that you have to amputate.
Yes,
you have to cut off the lower part of the legs, which would be the drumstick.
Yeah, some of it anyway. I've had to do
some
surgery,
of it,
yes.
But it is very strange.
Nowadays, I don't even mess with that.
You don't do that. You buy parts.
I will just buy a few legs, and you can buy the whole breast part, and I just get, depending on how many people, I'm going to get enough breasts and legs, and then I just slice them up.
She gets a turkey that has 8 legs, basically, is what it is. Yeah.
Yes.
I still try and do a whole one, but I learned that if I wanted to have a turkey that would get into the oven, I can't get one that's very big because otherwise these poor legs are sticking out.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's okay.
That's my turkey story. Gobble, gobble.
Another very French thing that you can do without too much effort is go get some fabulous bread.
Yeah.
For your Thanksgiving. So you could get a walnut bread.
Yes, definitely. Good bread.
Yes, go get some good bread. Good olive bread, good walnut bread, focaccia, pretzels.
Here they have fig bread, too.
Fig bread, whatever you could find. Find some nice variety of breads. You don't need a ton of it, but you need, better bread than your average.
Right.
For the occasion. Okay, let's talk about some desserts.
Okay.
What are the desserts?
Favorite part?
Yes. Well, the typical French dessert is the clafoutis, obviously.
Do you do clafoutis any time of the year?
Yes, any time of the year.
Any time of the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can make it not just with cherries, but with...
I've made it with pears, too.
Yeah, pears is very good. Apples works.
Yeah, it seems to be better with a juicier fruit like cherries.
Yeah.
But I'm not a huge pear eater, but I like pears cooked. Mm-hmm. And I find that it does well also with something like a clafoutis. Yeah. And clafoutis, for those who don't know, is...
Well, it's like a flan, but with some flour in it.
It's basically, it's not very heavy.
No.
And it's basically eggs, milk, and a little bit of flour, and a teeny little bit of melted butter.
Yeah.
And sugar.
Yeah. It's good. I'll put a recipe.
Very, very good.
I'll put a recipe.
And desserts. Oh, well, I love making desserts, even though I try not to too often. This is interesting. I hadn't really thought about it. So one of the things I discovered that I love to make is a pear cake. It's pear, and it has a little bit of black pepper in it.
Ooh, that's bizarre.
Well, you know what? Pears go really well with ginger. And they go really well with a teeny little bit of nutmeg. They don't do well with cinnamon. I'm not sure why. The cinnamon seems to only like to be with apples. So pears, they don't like pears, and pears don't like cinnamon. But I found this recipe, and again, it's not that much. It's just a small amount of very finely ground black pepper that mixes in with a little bit of nutmeg, and it's an upside-down pear cake. And it just gives a nice little extra something to the cake. It's really very good. It's very, very subtle.
Cool.
I love it. And of course, here in France, we have lots of different kinds of apples. Not always the same kinds as in the States. There are some that are the same and some that are very different.
Yeah.
And so you can do all kinds of different apple things. You can do an open apple cake or
apple tart,
apple tart, or you can do a traditional American apple pie.
Well, the thing is with the French style apple tart is that you have to slice your apples carefully and
make
set
it,
them carefully.
And usually put a little bit of a cream,
glaze on top.
Kind of glaze on top. And then I sometimes do that and add a little bit of what I guess would be called a crème, but it's really basically a little bit of milk, 1 egg, and maybe a little bit of sugar, and as a filler. So it's not just apple, because I find unless you cover it and make it with a humongous amount of apples, I find, honestly, if it's just apples with nothing else, it's a little bit boring.
Yeah, in France, they put a tiny bit of custard at the bottom.
Yeah.
There's a crème.
I like that.
Crème anglaise, yeah.
And then, yes, and then the other, of course, which is harder to make at home, but is unbelievably delicious, is the Tarte Tatin.
Ah, yes.
But honestly, it's hard to make.
I haven't ever made one.
I love it, but it's really hard to make. Because you have to cook the apples cut in very thin slices in butter with cinnamon for a very long time. And then you have to make a dough, and then you put it in a pan and put it in the oven. And then when it comes out, you have to reverse it so that the apples are up on top. But if it's well made, it's so delicious. And it's so good with vanilla ice cream. Forget the cream, ice cream. I love desserts.
Yeah. Let's see. One more dessert. Oh, of course. If you want to make it simple, bring an easy French thing into your Thanksgiving. Buy some macarons.
Yes.
I've bought macarons from Costco in America, and they were not half bad.
They were not half bad.
Yeah, they're not as good as the freshly made kind that you can get in French bakeries, but they are not half bad. So I wouldn't, if you know how to make them if you know how to make them already, why not? It's like with the cannoli. You could make cannoli. They're a perfect little bite-sized dessert. But you have to have the mold. You have to. These are the types of desserts that you have to master.
You have to master them. Absolutely.
It's like making homemade cookies.
Yes.
I'm sorry. All the French women around me look at my cookies and they're like, "How is that possible? Your cookies are so different from the ones they try." Well, it's 20 years of living in the U.S. I've had so many, friends sharing recipes, trying different things. You learn how to make cookies in America. Right. Well, in France, you learn how to make cannoli because that's what we make.
Or basic cake.
Yeah, but if you don't have a lot of practice at making those things, it might not turn out.
Now, one thing you will not see here is pumpkin pie.
Oh, no. I refuse to eat the stuff.
Oh, I love it, actually, but I like all of that. I love everything orange. I love everything orange. So, again, you can make it. I mean, you can simply make it with butternut squash or potier marron.
Yeah.
But most people here don't appreciate it.
No, it's a way. It's completely wasted on French people.
However, you can make a walnut tart.
Oh, yes.
And that is delicious.
Well, it's kind of like the pecan pie.
Yeah. But here, of course, it would be made with walnuts. And we live in a walnut growing region. The Southwest has lots of beautiful walnut groves. And the walnuts are really delicious. And I love that.
Yeah.
It's very rich and very sweet, but it is so good.
All right, we got to stop.
I think we're ready for lunch.
Yes, we're ready for lunch. Thank you so much. And, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, everybody.
Oh, yes. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Hopefully,
we forgot one thing. We should just say, if you really want to add a French touch, you have to serve a little bit of cheese.
That's true.
After the turkey and all of those veggie dishes.
That's true.
You really
buy some cheese.
Buy some nice cheese. If you haven't served your warm goat cheese salad first, get a little bit of goat cheese and a couple of other nice cheeses and serve that with a little bit of fruit at the end.
Oh, everybody's going to be so stuffed. I'm stuffed just
everybody's
thinking about
going to be so stuffed, and we are so hungry talking about all of this. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, everybody.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Au revoir.
Bye.
Thank you for signing up to support Join Us in France on Patreon this week, Taylor Berberich. My thanks also to all the patrons who support the show month after month. There are 72 of you right now. Many of you have been supporting the show for several months, and I want you to know how much I appreciate your continued support. To support the show on Patreon, visit patreon.com/join us. That's PATREON. N. Now for my personal update, I have been participating in NaNoWriMo for 5 days as I record this, and I've spent at least 4 hours each day writing, and I'm making good progress. It's amazing. I'm actually enjoying sitting down to write for a few hours each day. I wondered if it might be a drag, but it's actually something I can see myself doing over the long haul. It's kind of fun to think about it and organize my thoughts and wonder what's going to be the most helpful way to present things for you guys. My take on travel writing so far is this. When people come to France, they sometimes run into misunderstandings that can totally ruin their vacation, or at least ruin their enthusiasm for the vacation. I think you'll understand this because you listen to the podcast, and I'm constantly explaining why things are the way they are in France. Travel guides usually don't tackle those questions at all. Yet, nowadays, I think that's where the pain point is. The locals, like me, we understand the small cultural differences that matter a lot. But typical travel guides just give you lists of things you can do. Well, that's helpful, and I will do that at some point as well. I'll probably write a book to share the smart way to organize your precious few days in Paris. But even then, the emphasis will be on why you should organize things in a certain way and not simply a list, with opening times and closing times and whatever. I think the personal interactions are what make a trip either incredibly memorable or pretty awful. What can ruin your vacation in Paris is not that somehow you won't be able to figure out how to get tickets to the Eiffel Tower. I trust that you can do that just fine. But I want to teach readers how things work in France in general, things that are applicable anywhere in France, like how French people think. And when you understand how French people tick, you will have a great time on vacation. There is a method to the madness. And the secret sauce is going to be in the book. I think it's been in the podcast all along, but people will now be able to get it in a, shorter, easier to digest format. Because I have been doing this podcast so long that if you sat and listened all day, every day for 12 hours, you'd be listening for 2 weeks. In book form, you'll be able to learn all the tips that you need to have a great time in France in maybe an hour, maybe 2. I'm planning to release both an ebook that will go on Kindle and Kobo and all these other readers, and also an Audible audiobook. I don't know exactly how long the book is going to be, but the idea is to make it as complete and useful as possible without adding anything extra, so you can get straight to the good stuff. Right now, I'm writing as fast as I can to get to the end of the first draft. Then will come self-editing, a first pass, and there's some tools that will help me do that. Then I'll make my husband read it all because he's a linguist and he's very good at that type of thing. And then I hope to have it polished well enough to show a few other people late November. And this is where you come in, listeners. I'm looking for a few beta readers. People who are going to be willing to read it and give me feedback like, I would have liked to read more about this and less about that, and you forgot to mention this or whatever. That sort of feedback. I mean, you could also correct my English, which I'm sure can be done. But hopefully by then, most of that will have been taken care of. And I will also pay a professional editor to look through everything and do a proper edit. But what I'm looking for with the beta readers is more how to make the book more helpful, better, more set of eyes are good for that. So if you'd like to be a hero and be one of my beta readers, please send me an email. I will love you forever for helping me in this way. Okay, here's an important tip for listeners who are in Paris right now. The Notre Dame Cathedral is putting on a wonderful event on November 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th on the big plaza in front of Notre Dame. It's called the Parvis de Notre Dame. It's starting today. This episode is being released on November 8th. So it starts today and through Saturday night. It's only going to be put on this year as a special celebration of the 100th anniversary of World War I. It's free, but you need to register to get a ticket. The link to do that will be in the show notes, but I'll tell you anyway. It's called damedecoeur.paris. This is a light and sound show, one of those wonderful shows where they project stuff, lights on top of the art on the cathedral. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. And now I'll read you the synopsis from the event website. The scene opens with the twilight on a battlefield in 1917, on the threshold of an encounter between a young French nurse and an agonizing American soldier. In the twilight of his own life, the young man expresses his one regret, not to have been able to visit the Cathedral of Notre Dame. Through a historical, artistic, and mystical dialogue, these two souls are led to discover together the mystery of Notre Dame, who becomes their Queen of Hearts. Through this exceptional visual and musical journey, the facade of Notre Dame de Paris reveals some of the most beautiful facets of its character and message. Thousands of people are invited to the courtyard of Notre Dame de Paris to enter a communion which is both aesthetic and popular. Seated in the dark, the audience is led into the progressive illumination of this moment. It sounds like a lovely story. I would love to be there. I looked into flights just to go for that. Oh, last minute flights are not cheap. And I can't drive because it would take too long and I'm writing, so I can't do that. But I'm sure some of you will attend. Please report back on the Join Us in France closed group. It would be fun to hear about that. Remember, it's a free event, but you need a ticket to go. So go to damedecoeur.paris to get your ticket. And the link is in the show notes on joinusinfrance.com/172, the number. Okay, let's talk about something else that's going to not happen in Paris this year. The Christmas market on the Champs-Élysées this year. The City Council of Paris has voted unanimously to revoke the license of the man who put on the Christmas market on the Champs-Élysées in the last few years. His name is Marcel Campion, and he's I don't want to get into French politics. So, unfortunately, there won't be a Christmas market on the Champs-Élysées this year. He has no license. He can't do it. He is. I read in the news this morning that he's trying to block access to Paris on the ring road today as a protest. So he's not going to be quiet about it. But I don't think it's going to happen. The city said that they will organize something classier going forward, but I'm sure nothing will happen this year. You can still go to the Christmas market in Paris, but you have to go to La Défense, le Parvis de la Défense, which is also a nice Christmas market. I'll talk about it again in upcoming episodes. This is purely political, okay? And even after reading several articles in the press about this decision to stop the Champs-Élysées Christmas market, I really don't know what Campion did to upset all of them so much. But I have to admit that the Christmas market Campion put out was quite kitsch, okay? I was there last year. I even did an episode about it. There were a lot of plastic Santas. There were a lot of very overpriced food items, including like a tiny taste of a piece of bread for €5. I'm like, what are you doing? This is like outrageous. For €5, you can buy bread for 10 people in France. There were things that I thought were in bad taste. Like you could buy hot wine by the half liter. So that's almost a full bottle of wine it was €6 or €7 or something. Now, that's just asking for trouble if you sell that much wine for that cheap. And the items for sale were mostly, made in China. And okay, some of them were nice. There's that's a question of taste. But there's a big push in France to make Christmas markets smaller and reserve space for vendors to people who make items in France. So, crafty kind of things that are made in France. So the Christmas market in Strasbourg has been like that for many years. You can't buy cheap crap from China at the Strasbourg Christmas market. It's not been allowed for a long time. So I think going forward, you'll find more craft things. It's the difference between Amazon and Etsy. On Amazon, they'll sell anything that sells, right? On Etsy, they sell items that are one of a kind, made by artisans. And that's the direction that the Christmas market in Paris wants to go. Wait and see. Let's see what they do. I mean, it's unfortunate for the people who were hoping to see the Christmas market. But like I said, there are other smaller Christmas markets, not on the Champs-Élysées. And you'll be able to you'll be able to enjoy those in several other places, including La Défense, which is going to be a big one. The best way to connect with me is to email me, Annie@joinusinfrance.com, or search for the Join Us in France closed group on Facebook. Now, if you have a great tidbit to share with the Join Us in France community, call 1-801-806-1015 and leave a voicemail to be played on the podcast. I am going to play one today. That is really important. You have to stay tuned and listen to that at the very end. John Murray explains how somebody tried to pickpocket him. This is the French tip of the week. All right, the French tip of the week this week is the expression une bonne journée. Une bonne journée. What has the world come to that French people now part wishing each other a good day? We never used to do that, unless there was like some sort of sarcasm or something. But now supermarket clerks all wish you une bonne journée, a good day. It has become so common that they don't even use the whole sentence, which would be passer une bonne journée. They just shorten it to une bonne journée. I'm pretty sure this comes from the influence of American TV shows that French people watch all the time in great numbers, when the characters on TV, say to each other, have a good day, because you do that in America. Well, in French, they have to translate it to something, don't they? So they say une bonne journée because it's short. And thus, now, that's what you hear in France. It's kind of interesting. So I think it's a good idea to wish each other a good day. It doesn't hurt anything. So, une bonne journée. So for the historical tidbit today, I want to tell you about what French people in Paris ate in the Middle Ages. And I'm totally getting inspiration from this from a very good blog. It's all in French, though. It's called pariszigzag.fr. And I read it almost every day, and they have nice stuff. And this one really interested me. So the people in Paris in the Middle Ages, they ate very little meat. The regular people. Now, nobles, I'm constantly telling you about how kings went hunting. Well, noblemen would eat meat. They ate boar, they ate deer, they ate whatever they could shoot, right? The regular people, they would eat pigeon and rabbits and fish. They also eat a lot of pork, but they don't eat sheep, mutton, cow or chickens or even beef, because these are productive animals. You want to keep the chickens for the eggs. You want to keep the cows for the milk, for drawing heavy equipment. So they really ate only a few items like pork or fish or squab is what you call it in English. In the Middle Ages, they liked to eat bitter stuff. It's a little bit surprising because we don't like that so much now. If they made a sauce to go along with something, they would put a lot of vinegar in it, which would make it really bitter and acidy and bittery and stuff. Nowadays, we've switched to cream and butter. So they didn't have tomatoes or zucchini or peppers or pumpkin in Paris yet. So a lot of vegetables that we eat frequently today hadn't arrived in Paris yet because they come from South America. And so they arrived much later in the 16th century. What people ate a lot was fava beans and peas. This was really the basis of their everyday nutrients. And of course, they used a lot of spices. They used a lot of cloves and laurel and green onion. Noble people did not eat rutabaga or carrots or any root vegetables that grew in the ground, but the people did. They thought that anything that was growing in the ground was soiled. But of course, so noble people didn't eat that, but the regular people, they did because it's pretty easy to grow once you get good at it. And there were already kind of like the idea of a restaurant, but it was ambulatory salespeople. A lot of people in Paris had very small quarters to live in, and they didn't have anywhere they could cook. So they would be able to buy things like torts and stews and things like that they could just buy a portion of it and enjoy that. So it was food in the Middle Ages in Paris was a lot different than it is today, and I'm happy that it's evolved. Yeah, it's better today. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you next Wednesday. Au revoir.
Hi, Annie. This is John Murray from the Join Us in France Facebook group, and I'm here calling in to tell you about my pickpocket experience. So my wife and I were staying in the 7th arrondissement, and we're heading to the catacombs. So we're transferring from one metro line to another, and we're at the station to make the transfer. It's not very crowded. There's nobody behind me. My wife was behind me on the escalator, so I looked behind just to see what she was up to, and nobody behind her. We get up onto the platform, and it's typical metro. It takes 1, 2, 3 minutes for the train. It shows up, and we get on. She's ahead of me, so we get on together, and I feel something weird at my side. Now, I was wearing cargo pants that are kind of upscale, like you can wear them for work in a business casual setting, and there's a pocket on one side, and it zips up, and it's actually the zipper's a little hard for me to open sometimes, so I figured it would be a pretty safe place for my wallet. Also, my wallet was I got a new wallet just for the trip, and I had in it just 2 credit cards and some money, like 40 euro. And so on, so that in the pocket, it wouldn't really show as a giant wallet and be an obvious target. So we get on, and I feel something weird at my side, and I can't explain what that feeling was, like possibly like I moved at just the right time or the wrong time, and I look down, and there's this guy right next to me. I've instinctively touched my pocket, and the zipper is open, and I know that it shouldn't be because I checked it a few minutes earlier. And this guy is right there, right at my side, and I'm like, no. And he gives me the most wide-eyed, innocent look I'd ever seen. I've got a 13-year-old son, so I'm used to seeing wide-eyed, innocent looks. And he took a step out of the metro, out of the train car. The doors closed, and the train took off. My wife, she didn't see anything beforehand. She wasn't paying attention to me when we got onto the train. So when I spoke up, she, looked up and saw him and said that he was crouched down near my leg. Let's see what else. That was really about it. We don't know where he came from. Like I said, he wasn't on the escalator behind us. I don't there was nobody in really kind of in our area of the platform, but I wasn't paying that much attention. So he could have been on the far side, or he could have come up the escalator after we got there, or he could have been on the train and then got off and turned around and so on. So a lot of opportunities there. I was trying to be as cautious as I could. You know, I chose the pants deliberately so I could have a place to put the wallet, you know, knowing that the zipper was a little stiff and so on. But ultimately, I feel like I just got lucky. Maybe I moved at just the right time or the wrong time, or maybe it was a little bit more difficult than he anticipated to get in there. So, you know, I would love to say that it was superior awareness or crime-fighting skills on my part, but I recognize that, you know, it was just luck. If he had gotten my wallet, I would have lost 40 euro. I would have lost my credit cards for the trip, and my wife would have wound up using her credit cards for the rest of the trip. So it wouldn't have been the worst loss in the world. So that's the story. I'm glad that it turned out safe for everybody, and you know, it's kind of a fun story that I can tell in the now that it's over. If you have any questions, please contact me, and thank you very much.
The Join Us in France Travel Podcast is written and produced by Annie Sargent and copyright 2017 by Addicted to France. It is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.